Well, it's 1:20, so I'm going to get started introducing the open house for the Associates of Engineering program. My name is Aaron Rickman, and I am right now in the middle of an EGR 150 class. EGR 150 is the Intro to Engineering class. We'll spend a couple minutes in here kind of showing off what some of the students are working on, introduce the lead engineering instructor, show off a couple of the pieces of equipment we have in here, and then we'll shift over to another class after that. So like I said, my name is Mr. Brickman. I'm in the department chair over math, natural sciences, and engineering. And in the background, Mr. Rahman, if you want to come on up, is our lead engineering instructor, Mr. Abdel Rahman. Yes, sir. Hello, Garrett. Camera's trying to focus.
All right, so as Mr. Brickman said, my name is Mr. Rahman, and I teach engineering. I've been at JCC for close to 2 years, and I teach engineering as well as drafting courses. So the course you guys are kind of stepping in the middle of is into engineering. So what that is more or less it's an introduction to the engineering process. So we teach you design, group working, just the kind of stuff you'll see in, if you work as an engineer in industry. And what you do is it's mostly a project-based course, and it's mostly 2 projects. The first one is going to be a bridge design, and I'll show you an example bridge. If I'm tall enough to get it.
Something we're going to kind of reiterate throughout this entire presentation is most of the curriculum is project-based. Yes, there are going to be those problems that, like in Math Fest, we're just kind of running through integrals or algebra. There's also ones that are very much hands-on, where you're building stuff. You're making use of the stuff that you've learned in the math and science classes.
So here's just an example of the bridge. So it's made of obstacle sticks, but there's a lot of engineering that goes into it in terms of how to make supports, the roadway and all of that stuff. So it's not just, put stuff together. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into it. And the second project is going to be more electronics. So you're going to be using something called an Arduino board, which is a microcontroller. And you'll basically program it to perform certain functions depending on what you're working on. And if you look around, you'll see a bunch of our students doing projects with Arduino. And here's a couple of completed ones. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get it to focus on it. But these are a couple of computer projects that were done using Arduinos. If Jackie would like to kind of tell people what they are.
All the for you, Jackie. Knowledge broken back. I apologize. So what's inside of the box? You can see all those electronics and all those wires that they put together. Why don't you talk a little bit about what this actually is?
All right. So this is basically an alarm clock that has included like a heartbeat and a temperature, and then it will display, as you see, it will display temperature here and the clock as well, and then the heartbeat.
So the heartbeat, what do you mean by it's going to display a heartbeat?
Well, once you touch it, it's going to read through the Arduino, and then it's going to display like the heartbeat of the person.
So kind of like a Fitbit or one of those like sport watches where if I put my hands on here, it'll tell me this is your current heart rate. Excellent. Also, you said this one was the
temperature.
So we'll be able to take my temperature. Might be really useful for something around now for COVID and everything. But a lot seems to go in there. I'm like kind of looking in here, and there's like a million wires in there.
Yeah, that's the tough part to do.
Yeah. So clearly something hands-on. And this is actually, while you kind of learn the basics in EGR 150, this is actually for Physics 252. So it's kind of like a full circle of Physics 252 being one of the last classes that students mostly take. You're kind of reiterating the stuff that you learned in EGR 150. So you got the Arduino, the electronics, the mechanical of like making it look semi-nice so you're presentable and that sort of thing. And one of the things, thank you, Jackie, that we make use of for all these projects is a lot of 3D printers. So students learn SolidWorks, they learn to model stuff in the computer world, but then instead of leaving it in the computer, leaving it in that theoretical space, they also were able to bring it to life. So a lot of the projects make use of 3D printers like you see here. There's one actually going right now with some gears being set up that they can incorporate into their projects. Here you have another one that's been completed This was all 3D print. There is some metal pieces that they fabricated around. But just a sample of what students are doing that is not just paper and pencil. They're creating things using the stuff that they learned with the paper and pencil. So I'm going to get out of this EGR 150 class and let them back to their class. I'm going to shift this camera over to another room. In that time of me shifting it over, I'm going to play a quick video kind of highlighting a lot of the stuff that is a part of the Associates of Engineering program. Let's get pick up and a second remote and a mouse. The mouse is right at the end of the room. Welcome back. We're now in the computer lab of the STEAM building. I just kind of want to go through a couple things, more specifically about the actual program itself. So one of the things I want to point out is the curriculum. Well, it's probably not going to show up that great. I've got the curriculum kind of laid out here, and you don't really need to see the individual classes, what I want to point out is that there's a math engineering class. In the second semester, there's a math, physics, chemistry class. Third semester, math, physics, drafting class. Fourth semester, engineering, math, and general elective, which generally is math. Now, there are other classes like your English 111s and your public speaking classes that are also within this curriculum, but every single semester has math and science embedded in it. Very, very rarely do we have an engineering student that is not taking a math class during their curriculum. Next thing I want to point out with it is that provided that you guys finish the degree, a student has a guaranteed transfer of credits. So according to the CAA, if you earn your, and this goes for other degree programs like Associates of Arts and Associates of Science, as long as you earn your degree, if you transfer to, let's say, NC State or ECU or UNC, all of your credits are guaranteed to transfer, which is really assuring to the student. They want to make sure that the classes that they're taking here at JCC are going to transfer. They're not wasting their time here taking classes that they don't need. They're guaranteed to transfer according to the CAA. During that promotional video, they mentioned a lot of things about, one, the fly-through for the new building. We are extremely excited that the engineering building started construction. They're starting to take down a couple of trees to make room for the building. They should be having a groundbreaking ceremony later this month. So we're really excited about that. The other thing that was really focused in on that video was the student clubs and the extracurricular activities that are associated with the engineering program. So one of the things, like in the past, we've had people build drones and fly them around campus, and not just build them from like a kit, but build them from like having just stock motors and a control board and putting all the pieces together, programming it themselves. That's the type of projects that we really try to foster here. We've had students hold workshops on how to solder. We've had building rockets and sending them off, model rockets that is. We've had the Joco Robos, which is actually a high school robotics team, make some really amazing robots. You can see one here. This is our latest one. Unfortunately, we couldn't really use this in competition due to COVID, but the general idea for the game or the robotics competition was the robot would go around picking up these dodgeballs and sending them off into something like a goal, kind of like a basketball game. The actual rules aren't too important, but what I want to kind of point out about this robot, one, it was built by high schoolers, and there wasn't an instruction booklet. They didn't have like the Lego sets where you say, okay, put part A onto part B. This was all designed. They certainly had help fabricating, but it was their design. They were putting all the nuts and bolts together. The dodgeball would come into the bottom, it fed through, come out here, and then there was a pitching machine style feeder system that this would get shot out at just the right angle to score the goal. We're definitely looking forward to continuing that. Our JCC students were able to act as mentors, helping them with the design, helping them work with SolidWorks and other ways to make that robot as good as it can be. Going back to the engineering building, our current engineering club, and Garrett, if you want to step in, feel free. Garrett Lee is our president for our engineering club. So one of the pictures back here you see is a tower, and on the top, well, you can't really see it too well, is a little box that contains a the idea of a camera to take a time lapse. When we were awarded the engineering building, they knew that they were going to construct it. We come up with some ideas of how do we document this. And one of the things that we did is we got a quote, how much would it cost to set up this tower with a camera on top to take pictures every now and then, so that at the end of the construction, we would be able to have a time lapse of this building being raised. And the construction or the company that we got the quote from came back and said, that's going to be about $7,000 to $8,000. And we looked around and said, well, we're a community college, and while we definitely have funds to buy amazing 3D printers, that seems a little high. We can create that with our engineering club for much, much cheaper. So if you want to look over there, hopefully it'll follow you now. Let me see it switch. There you go, Garrett.
Like you said, I'm the Garrett Lee. I'm the engineering club president. And basically what we plan to do is we have built a solar powered time-lapse photography. So what we're doing is we're setting up a tower that we're collaborating with the advanced manufacturing department where they're building the frame for it. We're doing the housing and the components inside of it. So this is the components that we're using inside of it. While it doesn't look like much, this is a Raspberry Pi, which is a small computer. And then we have it solar powered, running, charging the battery, and then connecting to the camera. And what we're doing is we'll take a picture about every 10 minutes throughout the year-long construction of the building. And we're going to compile all of those images into one continuous video, frame by frame, to show the development of the building over time.
Excellent. So yeah, we have like the nuts and bolts, or the guts of it, if you will, all ready to go. We've tested it out. It's able to take pictures. The solar power, the Raspberry Pi has very small power needs. So the solar power is great because this being a little bit off-site compared to where all of our power outlets are, we were worried about getting power to the Raspberry Pi, to the camera. So solar power works great. We've got a rechargeable battery on it to make sure that while we have extra sun, we can store up that power to later use it during cloudy days. Behind us, we also see another 3D printer that's currently printing Drafting 170 projects. So one of those courses I mentioned in the curriculum is DFT 170, which is a SolidWorks class. Essentially, the students are instructed on how to use SolidWorks. And then instead of just leaving it on the computer, like we've been mentioning, they get to take those projects and 3D print them, make them basically come alive, if you will. So some of the projects that you see on the split case are from EGR Drafting 170. So people basically building houses within SolidWorks and then being able to 3D print them to make them real. We also use these 3D printers for math. These math classes that have to do with integrals and stuff are great because with the 3D printer, you can make little devices or visual aids for the students. So it's not just a bunch of numbers and functions. You can kind of see students have that light bulb moment when they can actually see something physical that's representing with all those numbers. Everything else that we want to kind of discuss in terms of student clubs and the extracurriculars is the extracurriculars is really where you're going to get your most amount of learning. Yes, you're going to take all of your classes, you're going to learn everything that you need to be successful at NC State, but a lot of those softer skills and stuff is what you get from those extracurriculars. One of the things that we really like to pride ourselves on is the Goodnight Scholarship Program. Now, the Goodnight Scholarship Program is specific to NC State. It's a scholarship program where students that are awarded it have basically a full ride. They get all of their education paid for after JCC. And JCC is the #1 in recipients, the number of recipients of Goodnight Scholars for all community colleges. Every single year, we have 2 to 3 recipients, several finalists that make it through that process. And then they're off to NC State with a full ride. We're really popular. We really try to work with the students. Here's a couple of our past winners behind me. We work with the students in helping them write their essays, giving them mock interviews so that when they go to that process of getting an interview, that they feel a little bit more relaxed. So we have dedicated faculty that are going to be there for them to help them write them, remind them of their deadlines, give them that mock interview, give them all the pointers they need for their essays, et cetera. And we're really proud that we have routinely about 3 students that get full rides to NC State through this Goodnight Scholarship Program. Now, well, I don't see anybody in the chat right now, but if anybody has any questions about the Associates of Engineering program, my name again is Aaron Brickman. The first instructor that you saw over in the EDC, in the Engineering Build Center, was Mr. Abdel Rahman. Would be happy to answer any of your questions. Just drop us an email and we'll always get back to you. Hope everybody has a good day, and thank you for being a part of the Engineering Open House.